Now, back to Sunrise on News Radio 880 KCMX.
Good morning, everyone. 17 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to the Sunrise Show. Beautiful Friday morning out there. About 32 degrees. Supposed to get to 70 today. Unbelievable. I want to welcome into the program Dr. Joel Klein. He's an MD. He's with Ventana Wellness and a wealth of knowledge just because of whatever he's done from the East Coast. And then he had his own practice in Colorado. And he's been in Medford for a number of years. And they're putting on a free event coming up Tuesday, March 10th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Smullin Center. This is going to be fantastic. Along with Dr. Anna Lambertson, she's also an MD. They're going to be talking about weight gain, skin problems, fatigue, depression, eliminate headaches, and the lower GI, which is a huge piece. Dr. Joel Klein, thanks so much for being in this morning.
Thank you.
It's great. So you are on the front lines when complaints come in. Are all these issues here like what everybody's having problems with?
Right. And it's more so, this is what's much more common than, yes, you have your basic common diseases of Western society, of high blood pressure and diabetes and these things. But at least, again, maybe I see a skewed population, but I don't think so because I did regular family practice for 15 years.
Right.
And all that. It's all of these interrelated problems that don't seem to be interrelated, that are related to, like what we're going to be talking about, toxins, but particularly what happens in the gut, what happens with toxins, and these systemic reactions that occur that then cause all these inflammatory problems. And I'll tell people, the person who has 10 different medical problems seeing 7 specialists, or the person with 100 different symptoms and the doctors go, well, we can't find anything wrong. A lot of times this is the common root, are these things that are going on in the gut and that have to do with overgrowth of bad organisms. Like I'm going to be talking about the yeast issue,
right,
which is still poo-pooed because it's very misunderstood by actually even people who think they know about it, and certainly the medical community. But this is a major issue. And then the toxins like heavy metals that Anna's going to be talking about that accumulate, that then those on top of our diet and our stress is really what's making people sick most of the time in all these different ways.
The diet, the American diet
Right.
is just horrible, and we're all just being idiots.
Right. Well, we're being led because the economy is running on this. And it's, I'm sorry to get a little political here, but I think that they're arguing about the wrong thing. They're arguing about who's going to pay for all of this, when what you have is a system that is actually now designed to turn people into medical consumers by making them just sick enough that they need doctoring by, and it's from the agribusinesses to the food processors and then to the insurance companies and all the ancillary medical people. There's a huge sector of our economy making billions of dollars, turning people into patients. And then they're just arguing how to pay for it. But the real issue is, why are we creating such a sick, marginally sick society in this land of plenty when we really could be having anything? And that's a major issue, sure.
Oh, it's a major issue. It's a major issue. I had a pharmacist tell me, he said, Craig, off record, he said, this Affordable Care Act is a disease bill. It's not a health bill.
All this is disease care. It has nothing to do with promoting health. And because that's too big, that's the 800-pound gorilla that nobody even wants to look at, because too many people have a vested financial interest in the public being, again, just sick enough that they have to consume medical care. Can't be so sick that they can't work, because then obviously the entire economy in the country crumbles, but just sick enough that they have to now consume medical care.
Yeah, just well enough to call the doctor, come in and get a prescription,
or have to come in every month, every 3 months, every 6 months to get your diabetes medicine and your blood pressure medicine and your heart medicine and all of these things, and you need the doctor, because the doctor has to write the prescription, and you need the drug company. So it's all about disease management, and managing a disease takes a doctor and a drug company. Nobody's talking about the underlying, what actually is causing this and curing it, because that would cause the whole house of cards to crumble.
Exactly. We've got Dr. Joel Klein in with us this morning. He's from Ventana Wellness, and they're going to be giving a free event, a free lecture. And I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, between Dr. Joel Klein and Dr. Anna Lambertson talking next Tuesday from 6 to 8, on the 10th at the Smullin Center. You need to get and see this. This is fantastic. Lots of room there, great seating, great lighting, big stage if you haven't been there. And they're going to be talking about headaches, depression, fatigue, all of it, the digestion issues. And you know what, Joel, I've said this before. We are on our own. We need to do...
We are.
We need to step up and do it for ourselves.
This is the issue. The public is going to have to drag the establishment kicking and screaming because they're not easily moved. You know, it takes a public movement of people demanding it, and then, like I said, the marketplace will slowly adapt, but it takes, ongoing pressure from people saying, no, we're not buying this, just take a drug for this anymore. We want some better answers for that.
Well, and there's another report where there was this wonderfully decorated Air Force commander that, she made it up through the ranks and then committed suicide. We have Robin Williams, depression, suicide, PTSD.
Yeah, this is really complicated.
All of this
how much all of it is, and some of these things are related to literally our brains being toxic. Some things that we're going to talk about. Certainly, the stresses of modern society. How much of it even the medications and things that sometimes are helping people, but in other ways are making other things worse.
Joel, I don't even want to say the two words I'm about to say. And we'll have to hold it for our next show. We're coming up on a break. But, seriously, with everything going on and families trying to stay together, the two words I was going to talk about is mental health.
Well, sure. I know. And it's a huge problem. And there's some people, I do the best I can from what I can do with it because the mental health resources are more and more strained. That's the first thing that gets cut out. We have a huge need in this valley, and that is not being met. I'm not trained to do a lot of the things that go on here.
And
I'll be honest with you, all I know, actually, I don't do counseling. I have to use the medications now. I'll find a lot of people, it turns out, it's affecting their health are because of chronic stress, their hormones are all low, and that's actually making their brains not work as well. Or their brains are actually mildly inflamed from these things we're going to talk about on Tuesday with food allergies that are called, and toxins and things. So all these things are making it worse, plus, what's happening in the society.
We'll be right back on the Sunrise Show.
So get up. Top of the morning to you.
Now, back to Sunrise on News Radio 880 KCMX.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. 35 minutes after the hour, it's the Sunrise Show on News Radio 880 KCMX, continuing with Dr. Joel Klein. He's an MD. He's with Ventana Wellness. You can get to their website, ventanawellness.com. They're over on State Street in Medford, and they're giving a free event, a free lecture Tuesday coming up from 6 to 8 p.m. That's the 10th. Rid your body of toxins and eliminate Candida. And Dr. Joel, Candida is...
Yeast. It's the major species of yeast that will overgrow, particularly in the gut, and it can also in the sinuses and respiratory tract. That occurs from number one, from overuse of antibiotics, and people will have this even from childhood. So people who've had frequent courses of antibiotics, certainly the high sugar, high processed food diet, because yeast only feeds on glucose. It's the only fuel it can use.
Right.
So the more glucose we give them, and what do they make from glucose? Carbon dioxide and alcohol. So they make toxins and alcohol-like compounds. People have gas and bloating all the time, that from the carbon dioxide being made from the yeast literally fermenting, which is what happens. That's how we make beer and wine. This is what's happening in the gut. And then all these other issues, when that's happening, people develop allergies that they may not even know about to all different foods that they're eating, gluten being a common one, that then can cause these kind of allergy and inflammation reactions.
It's amazing, Dr. Klein, that all of this, that if we, the people, if we could take a proactive approach and just follow through on some of these things.
Oh, sure.
Think how healthy.
But like we were just talking about, the entire economy and culture is geared toward making it hard for us to do that. It is now cheap and convenient for people to be made sick. because that's the foods that are being subsidized by the government so that they're cheap. And yeah, it's a racket, and it's actually more expensive to be healthy than it is to be sick. And then we want to argue about who's going to pay for all the health care. But we're incenting people to be sick financially.
Yeah, this is where you've got to take the bull by the horns and just say, I'm doing this. And this is,
right.
I would think that your lecture coming up on Tuesday would be a perfect way to start this.
Well, these are two big areas, the toxicity issue and the yeast issue in particular. I can't tell you, I've seen more patients with yeast problems since coming into this valley. I mean, I dealt with a lot of it in my regular practice, but it's like, you know, one doctor said when he was talking about chronic fatigue patients, he says, you know how you tell somebody has Candida? They're in your office. Basically, everybody who comes in's got it to like some degree or another. Some people have it more than others, but I think it's diet, the climate here, you know, because these are molds. So if it's moist and warm, that's where these things grow. And certainly if we're feeding them with like I say, high processed foods, we have this ongoing problem with feeding bad bugs in the gut, and that has innumerable problems all through the body. And you wind up with these inflammatory type of food allergies that can cause asthma, eczema, migraines, arthritis, menstrual problems, autoimmune diseases, all of these different problems, all from the same issue, but they're showing up differently in different people based on that different people are genetically different, so the same disease doesn't show up all the time. It shows up differently in different people, but the same underlying root is there, and a lot of it's what's going on in the gut.
We have about a minute left. Dr. Anna Lambertson is going to be there. She's going to be talking about toxins. Give a little bit about that.
Well, more so, Anna knows more about, again, the heavy metal issue in particular, which, again, the heavy metal and the yeast go together because they tend to feed each other. And, you know, these metals are now in our environment from industrialization from the past 200 years. So that particularly, well, you know, mercury people are aware of from dental amalgams, lead from all the, you know, there's lead in every corner of the globe now from all the era of, you know, you can find it in the Arctic. From leaded gasoline, these types of things, all the aluminum, there are other metals.
But the liver is
the liver normally would be able to process these, but like I'm going to talk about, if the liver is being bombarded from toxins from the gut that are being produced by yeast, particularly if you're feeding yeast sugar and you're making alcohol, and the liver is being bombarded with these toxins coming from the gut, so it can't do as good of a job in getting these other things that we're getting from the environment, other alcohol toxins or you know, like perfumes and all these organic solvent things. You know, we're being bombarded with this, but the liver is overloaded, and especially because part of it is it's all this junk coming from the gut is putting it at a disadvantage in the first place.
It's unbelievable. We're out of time, but it's great to have you in, Joel. Got to have you in again soon.
Sure.
Dr. Joel Klein, he's an MD. He's going to be presenting along with Dr. Anna Lambertson coming up Tuesday. Ventana Wellness is a free event at the Smullin Center, Tuesday from 6 to 8 p.m. We'll talk more about that this week. Got to get to a break on the Sunrise Show on News Radio 880 KCMX.